opportunity to say thank you for your attendance and welcome to I think this is our third business development workshop for the year. It's our third one. This was one that was a big one last year, so we had two from last year that we did that are repeats this year because we had people like you to say that they wanted that workshop again. So the first one that was a repeat was the one we had a couple of months ago, which was the one for bidding and understanding the process, the bidding process. And then this one is understanding contract law. So our speaker is en route. She should be here in about 10 minutes. Her name is Amy Arefo. So we'll just go over some logistics while we're waiting on her to get here. In your folders, you have on the left side of your folder, you have a bio for Amy. And right behind that bio, you should have a workshop evaluation form. Please pull that form out and put it somewhere in front of you so that you will remember to complete that form before you leave. And once you complete it, you can leave it on the table. We'll collect it that way, or if you want, you can leave it on the table in front if you want to do that as well. Then on the right-hand side of the folder, you have the agenda for today, which is fairly simple. And then you also have a printout of her PowerPoint presentation for today in case you want to follow along. What we're going to do this morning while we're waiting, we're going to start out with introductions. So I've introduced myself, give you a little bit of background about me. I've been with Clayton County Water Authority now for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in a couple of months. And previously I was with the Georgia Department of Transportation for 10 years. As their senior DBE coordinator. So if any of you are familiar with the DBE certification process, and if any of you have that certification, and if you were certified anytime before 2016, then that means that your file came across my desk. So that's just a little bit of history about me in this program. So small businesses are near and dear to my heart. So I have a passion for this line of work, so I try to make sure that I am bringing you guys information that is going to be valuable to you, that will help your businesses to grow. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've seen some businesses succeed, and I've seen a lot of businesses fail. And usually it's because of the lack of information. So we are trying to present to you workshops again, that are going to be valuable to you, that information you can take back and use in your businesses to help you. One of the things that I found with small businesses is a lot of times you don't know that you don't know. And so I will probably be sending out a survey here in the next few months to everybody that is certified in our program, as well as to the other attendees that have been to some of our workshops. And so I'm going to send a survey out, and I'm going to be asking you what type of workshops are you looking for, what information you want to get to help your business grow if it's something that we haven't done already. We are going to have a bonding workshop coming up in August, and wait till you see the flyer for that, but it's called All About Bonding. Right, and so we are actually going to have the presenter for that workshop who actually does bonding. And they're going to give you all the information that you need about that particular action item, is what I call it, about bonding, because a lot of small businesses don't understand there's a process to be bonded. You know, you can't get a project today and think you're going to be, have your bonding by tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. So again, we're trying to present to you information that's going to help you moving forward. So you'll get that survey. Please respond. The other thing, how many in here are certified with us already? You are certified. Okay, so there's potential for those of you that are not certified. I encourage you to become certified, not just with the Water Authority, but with any of the local agencies that have a certification program. It is not required that you be certified with anybody to do work with that organization or to bid with that organization, but a lot of times these certification programs have incentives that are built in for companies that are certified with them. We being one of those that have bid incentives, and sometimes if it's a proposal, we have additional preference points that you can get just because you're certified, which could potentially make you the winner. We are low bid, everybody knows that, government, we are low bid, low quote, right? So sometimes that extra incentive is helpful for you. I will say that it's been my experience, especially in a proposal, you know, everybody know how proposals work, right? So with proposals, it's points, and it's, you know, there's points for this, points for cost, there's points for, you know, all of that, there's points, right? So we also will sometimes have additional points for SLBE, if you are an SLBE that's bidding on something as a prime, or if the project is too large for SLBEs to bid on, we still have that incentive for those prime contractors for SLBE utilization. So my story is, I have seen in my experience where a company that was in third place, because they had SLBE utilization, moved up to first place. So it does work. So again, I encourage you, any certification that you can get free, do it. It only takes you a little bit of time to get together some paperwork. A lot of people don't like to do it because they say, what am I getting this certification for? You know, how is it going to help me? It's not going to guarantee you anything. So I always like to tell people that. I've been doing this for a long time. Certification does not guarantee you work. It is still a competitive bidding process that you have to go through. But the certification process, again, can have incentives attached to it. So please make sure you look into those. If you have any questions about our program, you have my card in your folder. You can call me or you can email me, and I can talk to you about getting certified. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and do our introductions. So I'm gonna start on this side of the room. I'm gonna hand you the mic, and I want you to just tell us your name, the name of your company, and just really briefly what your business is, what you do, okay?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Deborah White, and I'm representing True Path Consultants. We're a business consulting company. We do business support services such as training, process improvement, strategic planning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tioria Way, and I am a visual artist. I have my own business. It's called iCast Studios, and it's pretty much everything art, hands-on paint classes for kids and adults.
My name is Claudia Bowie. I do not have a business right now, but it's coming. I would like to have a manufacturing plant making draperies and linens. House market is booming, and I would so much like to be a part of it.
My name is Laverne Spruill, CEO of Spruill Business Services, and I help people take their vision, mission, and purpose and turn it into a legal reality.
My name is Steve Green, and my business is I've Got You Covered Insurance, and I can provide you any type of insurance, personal or business that you need. I'm also an AFLAC broker, so any personal or AFLAC type of policies you need, and capital funding. I can get you funded if your business needs some money.
My name is Tanisha Lawrence. I am with Turnkey Solutions. We're an IT consulting firm here in the Atlanta metro area. We've been in business for about 16 years, working with state and local government, helping them to resolve their IT needs.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm Kristen Cooper, a cohesive consultant. I help startup companies develop a systematic approach to business development, operation, process and system, and HR solutions. Our goal is actually to help, excuse me, I got allergies. It's actually to help alleviate stress and develop time management for business owners.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Master Returner Basin. I'm the proud owner of Basin's Health Zone LLC, which is a vitamin supplement company, but we also specialize in weight loss management. Unlike the gentleman, I don't wear many hats, I wear many pearls. I'm the current Vice President of Operations for Southern Credit Investment Services out of Clayton County. I am the current veteran columnist for Urban Spice Magazine, and the proud mother of 2 young men and a wonderful granddaughter.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Donna Franklin. I'm President and CEO of Turnkey Solutions. Tanisha did an excellent job of telling you about our company, but I just want to add a couple little things. In addition to IT support services, we do a lot of process redesign and we do a lot of customer service work. We're currently we're in the second year of a 3-year project with Atlanta Department of Watershed Management, and we are a recent Clayton County Water Authority SLBE, so we're excited to be here.
My name is Charlotte Hutchins. Just starting my business after being laid off from my job. So the only thing I've done so far is register my business name, which would be Complete Customer Care Consultant. So I've got years of management experience in IT and all types of experience. So now I'm trying to go out and start my own consulting firm.
Hello group, my name is Tracy Walker and I'm the owner of Moss Occupational Therapy Services.
Good morning, my name is Tony Baldwin with Empire Renewable Energy Capital. We provide renewable energy for commercial properties at no cost to the property owner via a PPA, which is a power purchase agreement.
Good morning everyone, my name is Stephen Gordon-Serby and I am the CEO, all the hats up, everybody in Gooby LLC. We do electronic design, digital design, software design, product development, that sort of thing.
My name is Sandra Griffin. I am the CEO of Catlin Construction, and my company deals with utilities, putting in clean water. We deal on the clean water side, anything dealing with clean water.
My name's Eileen Alter. I'm with David Shapiro Enterprises. We're a video production company and currently working with Yolanda on trying to create some videos, promo videos for all of you here. We are promoting companies on their websites or for whatever events that they may have. Everybody needs a video today.
Hi, I'm Jeanette Allison. I'm a project manager for Wiring Solutions. We are a full electrical construction. So if you ever need electrical work, let me know.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yvonne Lockett. After retiring 20 years as a contact center manager, my daughter keeps talking about owning a business, and I won't jump into anything without knowing something about it. So that's why I'm here.
Good.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Belinda Ellaby. I am the outreach coordinator for Clayton County Library System. And my areas are small business, entrepreneurship, health and wellness, and anything around surrounding youth. So for you all that are in business, what we find a lot of times people think they have a business, but they have a hobby until you make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. And that's why we partner with Yolanda and the Water Authority to make sure that we empower you to have strong, successful businesses. So we'd love for you to join our workshops as well.
Good morning, my name is Elise Barr and I am the owner of Auto Refinishers Paint and Body. It's a family-owned business. We opened in 2006. In my former life, I was a corporate accountant and we've been in business for a good little while. And I'll be very honest with you, we've never had a business plan, but we did have God. Amen.
Good morning, my name is Carol Whitaker Robinson and I am the owner of Smooth Touches Body Scrubs. I make all natural body scrubs for your lips, your body, your feet, And I also make, bath bombs. Well, I found out how to make it into a powder form, so you don't have to use the whole thing. You just dump what you want to make.
Good morning. My name is Connie Kitchen. I'm the manager of operations for EK Productions and Design LLC. We do entertainment. We got DJs. We set up for parties. Our slogan is to make your event an affair to remember, and that's what we do best. We basically don't cater to young people because of the type of lyrics and the words. My husband is a deacon, so we try to keep everything Christian based, and we more or less like to cater to the old school type people. That's our specialty.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Willina Clark. I am the CEO of LC Clark Consulting, which is an IT project management and web development consulting firm. I'm a new business owner, and I'm just glad to be here.
I thought I missed all this, but my name is Ronnie Davis. My name is Ronnie Davis. I'm with Dabbling Development. We're a construction company.
Thank you, Ronnie. I just want to just give a special thank you to Ronnie and also to Steve. Steve has been to every single workshop that we've had in the 2 years that I've been here. And so I just really appreciate him. Ron's been to a lot of them too, and I appreciate them because some of the workshops, our certification workshops, don't change because it's the same information. It talks about being certified. And they even come to those, and so I appreciate the support, so I wanted to publicly say thank you. For those of you, I heard there's a couple of you in here that have not yet started a business. Ms. Belinda was talking about the services that are available at the library, so make sure you take advantage of those. And then also, if you're interested in finding out more about the certification process here, next month in June, I believe it's June 13th, we will have a certification information workshop right here in this same room. I have your email addresses because you've signed up for this, so you will get an email when I send out the registration information for that. But I encourage you to come to that workshop because there you're going to find out about the certification process for the Water Authority and how to do business with us. And we also invite Clayton County government because they have a certification program as well that is separate from ours. And so we always invite them to come and talk about their certification process as well. So for those of you that haven't yet started a business and you want to get information about becoming certified once you have started your business, again, please make sure you attend June 13th next month. And I think that workshop is going to be from 10 to 12, but it'll be here in this room. And you will get an email with the flyer with all of the information. So lunch, this is a lunch and learn. Lunch is going to be provided today by Moe's. They should be delivering lunch here shortly, hopefully in another 10 minutes or so. They should be delivering lunch. So at no cost to you, all you have to do is learn something and eat well, right? And come back again. So our speaker is here today, Miss Amy Arefo. Let me just tell you about Amy. I love Amy to death. Actually, I know Amy from my Georgia Department of Transportation days. I actually did her certification as a DBE when I was at the Georgia Department of Transportation. Amy is very busy. What do I call it? She deals in corporate law, entertainment law. She's very busy, but she's very knowledgeable. And so I always like to bring the experts in because I'm not an expert in law, so I figure I need to get an attorney here to tell you the right things, right? But Amy and I go back a long way. She actually presented for us last year as well. And she is a certified SLBE with CCWA. I tried my very best to use our certified companies that are certified, because I mean, what's the use of me asking you to get certified if I'm not going to use you? So whenever I am in need of things, again, you heard from Miss Eileen Alter. They were the low quote when I was requesting for someone to do the second round of our SLBE spotlight videos. So I am using their company, they're certified with us as well, to do those. So I do talk the talk and walk the walk as much as I can. And so Amy, I'm gonna let her come up. They're gonna take a couple of minutes to mic her, and then she'll come up and do her introduction. And I think, Amy, what we'll do is just let you go ahead and start while we're waiting on them to bring the food, and then when they get here, we'll just make it a working lunch. I'll just do it that way. Does that sound good? Yes. The other thing, restrooms, if you need to know where they are, they're right out this door and go to the left. And they're both right there together, the men and the women's restroom is right there. We do have water. Hopefully your food will be here in a minute. Hope you brought your appetites, because I ordered food for people who aren't here. So just enjoy, learn something today. Please provide me your feedback. It's really, really important to me. I need to know that I'm doing a good job, I'm doing a bad job, I'm doing an okay job. So make sure you fill out your evaluation form before you leave. I do use that to determine, you know, what direction I need to go in. All right, so I'll let you go ahead and mic her up. While they're doing that, we're waiting on. Anybody have any general questions? I'll do that. I can take some questions real quick. Any general questions about the certification process? Anything? Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay. So I've been doing this, working with small businesses for probably about 15 years now. What is this, 29? Yeah, about 15 years. And one of the reasons why I really love entrepreneurship, my grandmother was a hairstylist. She had her own business for 50 years. So I grew up watching an entrepreneur, and I had an interest really early about entrepreneurship and how to own your own business and, you know, all of that. And so a little bit more, but I'm actually right now a candidate for my PhD, thank you. And so I'm doing that. I'm getting a Doctor of Business Administration, and my concentration is in small business and entrepreneurship, right? Because what people don't realize is that small businesses drive the economy. And a lot of people think it's big corporate, it's corporate. It is not. It's small businesses that drive the economy. And so what I am studying is the effect of the economy when we don't have small businesses that are thriving, right? So that's my dissertation. That's a whole nother thing. Lord have mercy, help me. Y'all pray for me. But I've been doing this for 15 years. It is a passion of mine, again, because I grew up in a household where there were entrepreneurs. So I got to see it from a little girl, and I just was always interested in it. So when I started doing this, and I started seeing businesses that were failing, it made me want to find out why. And what I found out was it was really information. A lot of times you don't know, and a lot of times people think you can just go out here and start a business and it's going to be, you know, and it's just going to work, and it doesn't work that way. So, are you ready, Amy? All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for your prayers, because I'm going to need it. All right. We're going to have Amy come up now and introduce herself, and we'll go ahead and start. Again, thank you guys so much for being here today.
So good morning, I'm Amy Arefo. I'm just excited to be here. Whenever Yolanda calls, she knows whatever is happening, I'm here. So I cannot speak highly enough about her. I'm so proud of her. I didn't know about the PhD program. She's always doing something amazing, you all. Like, so congrats with that, Yolanda. And as she said, she certified me as GDOT. So she has seen my business in the very initial stages. So she means more than I can articulate. So thank you for having me. So we're jumping right in. She knows my style. I'm very informal. We have the slides here. It's just to serve as a guide. feel free, pop up your hands if you have questions. She knows I walk around, I engage with tables, I'm very interactive. So let's make this as interactive as possible. Do I need one? Thank you. Perfect, thank you. So we're just gonna start with, just put something together just in general for questions. I heard we have people that run the gamut. We have folks who have not established a business entity. We have folks that have been in business for a couple of decades, right? So this is the ideal crowd. So we're gonna have a lot of questions across the board. So just in general, we're talking about how to mitigate risk in contracts as a small business owner. So I'm an attorney, but a lot of times people think of attorneys and they think of us as risk adverse people, which we should, manage expectations. But I'm also an entrepreneur, so I can balance the two. So when I'm speaking to you all, I'm speaking from experience, because I started a business, I've bumped my head, I've made a lot of mistakes, I've lost money, I've made money, so I can speak to you all about that. In addition, my skill set as an attorney, sort of manage expectations, help you all to protect risk. So just a quick roadmap, a little bit about my practice. As Yolanda mentioned, I have what I call a boutique law firm. I work with entrepreneurs and entertainers, literally falling in that gamut, and I'm grateful because one passion of mine when I started my business, I always say be intentional, is to work with the types of people I wanted to work with. I love working with innovators. I was a creative. I heard somebody say my former life, I say that all the time. In my former life, I was a dancer. I was a trained dancer for the majority of my life, so I always said I needed to be around some kind of creativity, not want, I needed it. In order to not be bored in my day, in order to feel like I was using my platform in the most effective way. So what does that usually lead to? A certain class of people. Entrepreneurs, you have to be creative in what you do, right? Regardless of any industry. And then entertainers naturally have a God-given gift where they're creating some capacity. So I help to grow and protect brands. That's everything from filing intellectual property, what's called soft IP, trademarks and copyrights. Patents, we'll breeze on that a little later in the presentation, but it is more of what's called a hard science and math background, but I had counsel that helps me validate. Like if you all created a machine to create, I don't know, I see a bag right here, to create those types of bags where you roll your laptops, that's a patent that would be needed. But I do work with counsel for that, so protecting intellectual property is huge for any business I work with. Yolanda will tell you that because your intellectual property is an asset. A lot of people don't view it as that. So when you are negotiating contracts, you leverage that as an asset to get more money, to get more leverage, to get more negotiation power. So we're just gonna breeze on the basics of a contract. What items should be included. Every contract is not hard and fast, but there's certain things that should be in there, right? You need a term, you need to know how much you're getting paid, you need to know the service that's gonna be rendered, and the compensation part is very important. I will go there right there, and the termination, how to get in and out of a contract. And then service performance requirements, just breaking down and being clear on what's expected of you in a contract, the services to perform. And then understand, like I said, compensation under contract terms and indemnification clauses, which have to do with some industries more than others. So we'll break all of these terms down. And then next steps will be, as far as each respective business, what you feel like you need to do to go to the next step for your business. So that's just a brief overview. Now we're gonna jump in and then we'll have Q&A. But Q&A could be within, the presentation. So like I said, if you have a question that's relevant to the time, I see your hand, pop it up, and we'll take it from there. Sound good? Okay. So, mentioned about the practice, corporate law and intellectual property. I know you have the slides because Yolanda's amazing and she always has everything in these beautiful folders. So let's start with the very basics. What's the legal definition of a contract? You all, there's no hard and fast definition. Somebody pop up a hand and just tell me what you think of. Like when you hear a contract, what do you think of? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
An agreement between two or more parties.
Absolutely. Binding. Wouldn't you say that's important? So we're going to go to the contract. Yep. So it is an agreement between two or more parties, like you said, that is binding. And then there's a contract period, right? So this is what we're talking about. That's an exact answer, right? A contract is just knowing that you are legally bound to render some service. So then it's a contract period. When you hear that, that's the term. There's a short-term contract. Sometimes I've done everything with contracts that are 30 days or they go for the month of May. And then you do contracts that are 2 years, 3 years, but knowing the term of a contract is important. A lot of times people are like, oh, that's not important. No, it's very important. Because guess what? Especially when you want to get out of a contract, if you have committed to a 3-year term and there's the termination clause, but for there being, have you all heard of termination for cause? Okay, somebody, I'm just gonna pick on you. Can you give me an example of what termination clause would be?
Like, I guess them terminating you for a good reason.
Absolutely. That's spelled out in the contract. You see why specifics in a contract? Absolutely. So you see why no two contracts are the same? Because a termination clause in a contract we have may be very different than a termination clause in a contract we have. So spelling all these terms and that period out is vital, because what if you didn't do it? Excuse me, let me pick on myself. What if I didn't do anything to get fired? And then
You can pick on me, that actually happened to me.
okay. She was like, no, use me.
I'm like, I'm unemployed because of that. Same thing.
Interesting. And I'm not trying to start, let me give a disclaimer. I'm not trying to start any battles here. But since we are, I didn't even know, right? We'll give an example. So in the event, it's to protect the company. So I don't know which company you're with prior to the time, but in the event that you look at a contract, you're like, wait a second. We happen to be in an at-will state in Georgia. But let's just say we're in a place that was not an at-will state. They fire you, you're like, I didn't do anything. An employee can go back and sue the company. That's why this is very, very important to know what triggers certain things. So some people are like, oh, it's a 3-year contract, whatever. If I don't like it, I'll get out. It doesn't work that way, right? Depending on the circumstances. So then we talked about termination, the details and the circumstances under which the parties in their contract obligations. And then compensation. This is the important part. This is the part people like to stay on. You want to know how much money you're getting paid, right? You want to know when you're getting that money. We're not working for free, are we? And if we are working for free, people don't choose that for us. We decide we're working for free, right? And people choose it for you when they don't pay you, not because you didn't render the service. And you want to negate that by being clear on your compensation terms. What does that look like? I see it fall anywhere in the contract. Some people, it tickles me. It's at the beginning of the contract because they want it to be clear on how much should be paid. Some people it's at the end, but it's in there. So a compensation clause could look like, after the term is mentioned, then it'll say, depending on the type of contract. If it's commission-based, it will speak to the percentage, and it'll talk about net versus gross. Very important. 2 very different numbers. So gross income is money coming in before expenses are taken. So you, ideally, depending on which side, I have negotiated contracts on both sides of people. If it is for the company, I want the person getting paid to get net. But if it's for the person, the service provider, I want them to get gross, because they're getting money before all the necessary marketing expenses and all these expenses are taken out. So that number is key. So people are like, oh, I'll just sign no. Net versus gross are 2 very different numbers. It can go, just throwing an easy example, gross can be $10,000 and net can be 5. You see the difference in the amount of money getting paid? So being clear on what compensation is, or it'll be a flat rate or a number, which people are used to if it's just throwing a number out. $1,000, per week. And then services we talked about, what specific services or products are being rendered or expected of you. Both sides need to know. It's called a bilateral contract because both parties have to perform something. Like, I have to pay you money and you have to render a service. That is a contract, right? And it's very simplistic form. So just knowing exactly what is expected of you is clear. Because a lot of times as an attorney, if I see a broad contract where it says, I've seen things pretty broad or vague. I'm just trying to, somebody just give me an example of what industry you're in, and I give you off the top of my head an example of something. I'm sorry? Consulting. Okay, this is the perfect one because there will be a consulting agreement. So consulting, okay. To provide consulting services once a month and taking a phone call, meeting in place, okay, that's great, but what type of consulting services, right? Because if you have a broad definition of consulting, that can mean anything across various industries. We all could be in a consultant in our industry. So I've seen contracts like that, and I go back to my clients and say, we need to narrow the scope because I can require the kitchen sink from you. You see? So it's very, very, very important to narrow the scope. Once again, depending on the side, if I was negotiating on your behalf as a consultant, I want to narrow the scope for you because I don't want you to have to do 20 things. I want you to do 5 things and get your money. Versus, once again, wearing different hats. Attorneys have to wear different hats. If I was on the side of the company receiving services, I want you to do as much as possible, but as least amount of money. So it's very important to narrow that scope of services. So people are like, oh, whatever, we'll decide it when we start working. No, because that's how it leads to disgruntled contractors, employees, because you're like, oh my gosh, they keep on asking me to do stuff. How many people have felt like that? Overworked, underpaid, right? So a lot of people can attest to that. It's because you have clear these terms. Indemnification. Anybody have an idea of what indemnification clause is? Once again, if you know it, that's awesome. But if you don't feel bad. Because an indemnification clause is just a really long word for when there is a mistake made in a contract or a promise made and there's a misrepresentation, meaning a broken promise, then the party that broke the promise has to pay and compensate the other party. Basically like me telling you, you just walked in, so I'm just picking on people. So it's like me telling you, yeah, I own all the intellectual property rights to this book I'm writing to give you, and then somebody sues you after you're trying to publish a book on my behalf because I didn't own it. I did not tell the truth. I lied, right? I lied to you. So there needs to be some compensation for me not telling the truth in the contract, and that's an indemnification clause. It's saying you told me by entering this contract that this was here, this was not here, so there's a misrepresentation, and then it's everything from court fees, attorney's fees, all the expenses attached to that person not telling the truth and being truthful with you. Yes, ma'am.
There are some contracts that want you to indemnify.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you explain what would happen in that scenario?
Absolutely.
And what we as small businesses, how we should play that?
Absolutely. And I'm going to cover that later, but I'm going to answer your question too for taking everything. So if you all see it again later, know that I addressed it. It's a perfect question. I was wanting someone to ask that, just in case you all did not hear what she was saying. She's saying most of the times you see an indemnification clause and they want you all as the service provider or the person presenting the product or service to indemnify, but there's no indemnification on the other side. So that's called a one-sided indemnification. You want it to be mutual. Everybody remember that. You want it to be mutual. The only time if it's, I wouldn't always say it's a deal breaker, but you want to go in and ask for it to be mutual because you want them to give you the same promise and representation as you're supposed to give them, correct? So you want it to be mutual. Most people don't fight that too much, but that should be something that you ask because most people don't ask. So excellent question. Okay, that's actually perfect. It goes into dispute resolution. So you all see, I know you see at the end of contracts, sometimes it says, jurisdiction, you can go to court, has anybody heard of an arbitration? Those are types of dispute resolutions, arbitration or mediation. Now what that does, as you all know, litigating a case can be very, very, very expensive, like extremely expensive. To throw out dollars to you all on a low end, most litigators aren't accepting anything less than $10,000 as a retainer, period. Period. Because the amount of paperwork that has to be filed, the court fees attached to it, the time that's put in there. So my job and my goal is, as what I call a proactive attorney, is if we can, let's keep you away from litigation. Let's keep you away from mediation and arbitration. Now sometimes it happens because business happens and personalities happen and life happens, and sometimes people just go their separate ways. But if there's something we can avoid, let's avoid it. And then there are things such as the non-compete clause. Does anybody know what a non-compete clause is? Yes, ma'am. Oh, you?
Yeah, oh yeah. So I know you can't compete with that. I mean, we'll work for that
for a certain period of time. Absolutely. Absolutely, because the non-compete clause cannot last forever, because what happens is the court will do what's called strike it down. If somebody says, you can't work for 2 years in a 50-mile radius, you're like, how am I supposed to work? How am I supposed to make money and create a livelihood? So a court will not honor that. It's unenforceable. But you can have a non-compete clause in there. Some people agree to it, some people don't, but these are terms that have to be negotiated when you first get an agreement. It's not something that you're starting, you're like, I'm just kidding, I don't really want to do that. You are obligated, it's enforceable because you have agreed to it, yes?
Assuming it's written correctly legally, what are your chances, you have a non-compete clause, it was signed, and then the person, like in our case, our non-compete is you cannot solicit our customers because we use a lot of people on site with customers. So they get business. So if you go to court, is that really enforceable? Or is it more of a scare tactic?
No, it all depends on sort of the term, the geography, the circumstances that will help a judge decide. But just the example I gave, if it's 2 years, and most of them, each state could be different, but in Georgia, I really haven't seen one longer than 2 years. And then, if it's that long, they still consider that to be a little long. It's the radius, the geography is not as far. They're not saying 50 miles, they're saying 5 miles. Just to give you an example. But there has to be a time, a finite amount of time when it falls off. Because here's what commerce and economy is going to say. It is a competitive market. So you can't try to hold someone down forever from doing business, but you can try to tell them for a second, let me catch my breath from you leaving, and then give me a little head start in the race, and then you can come. That's the best example to give. But you can't stop them and try to cut them at the knees forever in the industry. So depending on what those terms look like, the judge will go in there in the event of an arbitration, a mediation, or a civil trial. They will go in and say, okay, are these terms just so ridiculous that, come on, we're throwing it out. Effective immediately is not honored. So it really, it's one of those it depends answers on the terms in there. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and I was wondering, these non-compete clauses, is that something that a small business employer would ask of their employees? And if that's the case, at what point is that presented, or how is that presented?
Absolutely, great question. Yes, depending on the business, the nature, once again, it's circumstantial. An employer would ask an employee for a non-compete because the employee would not want to non-compete because they want when they leave to be free and to fly like a bird, right? Immediately. And to potentially work for a competitor. It may feel callous, but it's not. It's not personal. It's just the person wants to be employed. However, as an employer, you or the next employer will want to potentially have a non-compete, but then that is in the employment agreement or the independent contractor agreement, whichever one you have, would be in there. That language would be addressed in the beginning. Okay. So non-disclosure agreements, I know we know about that. You have those within contracts. That's everything from confidential information, that's your intellectual property. That is the way you run your business, what's called trade secrets. The way you run your business, and you may have just one process that is unique from every other person in your industry. You obviously don't want somebody to share that, right? So that is a non-disclosure, so that information will be covered in there and say, God forbid, unless you were summoned by a court for some emergency case, and then when you're summoned by the court, you have to show me the court order to show me that you're not lying. It's that confidential. So you want to have, regardless of the contract, it's always good to have a non-disclosure agreement. A provision in the agreement, because it will protect your confidential information to keep it there. God forbid somebody breaches, you can literally sue them for damages because you're saying, okay, this information I had was so sensitive to help run my business that now you gave somebody a competitive edge and now I lost. You have to be able to show loss of income. I lost $100,000 because a competitor came in and took all my clients. That's how detrimental it could be. So you have to have a non-disclosure provision, and then you can enforce it if you have language in there saying it's called liquidated damages, to say I can't accept anything less than, as a result of you disclosing the way I run my business, it was a minimum of $50,000 for damage, and then you go to court to show that you lost that money, and generally speaking, short of a fluke happening, you're going to get that judgment from a court, and then the person will have to pay you money. Okay, so we were just breaking down some of the terms of the contract. So there's something called a force majeure. Has anybody ever seen this phrase in a contract? Okay. So has anybody heard of an act of God? Yeah. Okay, that's what it is. It's just a fancy title. Contract. Speaking of legalese, that is a term, legalese, that you were saying when they put that in the contract. That's one. Force majeure just means the act of God. So yeah, literally hurricanes, tornadoes, fire, things that you cannot prevent, is called an act of God, which falls into a force majeure. So if you ever see that in a contract, you now know what it is. Literally think of what I said is an act of God, something so extreme that it stops you from doing your business. Strikes, anything that is out of your hands, out of control. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that would be good for construction.
Absolutely, huge. Like in Georgia, sometime, was it a couple of years ago or so? We had our drought, and then it rained one time, like all summer. Like we needed the rain, but we don't want that much rain. Something like that. They couldn't build. Those contracts are probably delayed for a couple of months because they had a solid month where the soil, red Georgia clay, they could not build. So that's a perfect example, especially in industries like construction. Force majeure clauses are huge. Intellectual property. We're going to linger here for a little bit, okay? Because this is important. Yes, ma'am.
Does that include debt?
I'm going because it sounds callous, but no. Yeah, and that's a great question. But I'm trying to think about a force majeure clause, and I haven't seen one. If you want that to be a carve out, literally you will put death as a carve out contract. That's why each contract is specific. Not that anybody wants to talk about it and does whatever, but what happens when someone's incapacitated for more than 60 days? If you want to have all those provisions when a contract can be suspended or terminated. So that's when you'll put it in termination. Intellectual property, like I said, we're going to linger here for a little bit. Intellectual property, there are generally 4 types. So there is a trade secret, copyright, patent, and trademark. A trade secret, I'll start with that one first because there's no like actual legal, I'll explain it. You can deal with a trade secret in a contract, but you do not have a like government agency to enforce it. I'll explain that later. So trade secret means, I used the example earlier. Let me use the famous example I always use. KFC, the way they fry their chicken. Chick-fil-A, the way they make their chicken. Big Mac, the sauce, right? I'm telling you all trade secrets that certain restaurants have that if they shared it, basically, you know that saying people say, I tell you, I gotta kill you, right? So it is that top secret for so many years because if somebody revealed that, their business is practically over. Because that is their, no pun intended, special sauce, right? Like that is their like actual way they make their money. That's a trade secret. There's no formal process to protect that, meaning going to an agency to file it. What they have to do is have their contracts airtight. Remember when I said there's a non-disclosure provision? I bet you their contracts have confidentiality clauses and non-disclosure, and if somebody discloses it, there's probably an inordinate amount of money they have to pay that scares them enough to not talk about it. Does that make sense? Right. Or else, does anybody know how to make KFC chicken the way KFC makes it? Right? We haven't heard these secrets coming out, so they must scare people enough that they're not talking about it. So that's a trade secret. And then patents I mentioned earlier, where if someone was the machines to create a Big Mac, you would patent that. The invention of how to create the actual machine that produces the product is a patent. And then you could protect the patent and a trademark. I'll deal with a trademark in a second. With the, you all take this down. It's a website. It's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, www.usp as in Paul, T as in Tom, o.gov. So USPTO.gov. That is the official federal trademark site, trademark and patent website where you are filing it. You will go there. So people say, oh, once I created it, I own it. This is true. You have common law ownership. But if you want to have a dog in the fight, a stronger fight, you want to file it with this federal agency. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a base fee for a trademark?
Yes, a base fee. This is exclusive to an attorney filing. If you wanted to file it yourself, it will be per class of goods. They have a couple of tiers. It's $225 per class of goods. That is if you're filing what's considered to be a TEAS, I'm using the term bar, they call it TEAS application, and then you're filing that where you go on and you take their sort of standard definitions of the class of goods. There are 45 classes of goods in the United States that you'll protect. You'll take one of those 45, you'll plug in one of the answers that they define, and you'll do that. When you want to make your own, like I usually craft and draft answers for each client because everybody wants something different. I handle anything I do in a case-by-case scenario. So then it's $275 per class of goods because you're then going in to draft a specific definition of what you want to fall under one of those 45 classes. And then the last one is, I believe it's $400 by paper application. The other two are online. And nobody really knows those fees because they're discouraging you from filing paper applications. They want to save trees, so they're charging you a lot more by filing the paper application. So it's usually, to be honest with you, if you're doing online, $225 or $275 if you file it by yourself. And then going back to trademarks, the trademark you would file on the same website. A trademark is a source identifier brand name. So when you think of trademark, think about a brand. Back on my restaurant examples, Chick-fil-A, Burger King, McDonald's, KFC. Trademark those names because we know what they do according to their name. You hear KFC anywhere in the world, you know it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, even with seeing those 3 letters. Same thing with Chick-fil-A, and it's synonymous with the brand and the level of service and products you expect to get. So trademarks are very important. People often ask, when should I do it? Yeah. Ideally, you would do it in the beginning when you're starting your business, but I understand businesses have budgets. So you will want to start doing it as your business is growing because the more popular you get, you all know, popular you are, people like to steal things, unfortunately. So make that a practice. I usually have what I call a 1-2 punch with clients. You set up your entity, right? You file your limited liability company, your incorporation, and then you protect your intellectual property. You file your necessary trademark or copyright. Because people say, I may not need it now until you see someone actually using your name. That's the worst, right? And then you have to go prove that you had it and prove your loss of profit, so it becomes a big headache. And then the last one, which I mentioned, was copyright. Another website for you all to take down. The agency was protected is the U.S. Copyright Office, and that's www.copyright.gov. Now you see all of these are official agencies because they end with .gov. If anything ends with anything else, it's fraudulent. You hear me saying that? If it does not end with .gov, I gave you the 2 official sites when you are filing a federal trademark or copyright or patent. And then you can do it at the state level, but I often tell people I'm an entrepreneur. As an attorney, I'm going to tell people no need to file at the state. If you want to, you got state protection, but federal protection always trumps state protection. So I'm not going to sit here until you file 2 trademarks. I like to operate in integrity. No disrespect to my other colleagues that are doing that. Sometimes it's a strategy, but I tell a lot of my clients, I'm like, make sure you're doing what's called actual use when you're filing it, and let's just go at the federal level. So I like to build trust so that the goal is for you to come back and work with me instead of feeling like it's a nickel and dime process. So not that if an attorney does that, disclaimer, they're not trying to hustle you. But I just like to go more straightforward and say, why do a state mark when we could just do a federal mark, which is going to protect that, and let's do it quicker. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
This is kind of important for me.
That's why I said we're lingering right here.
I'm an artist, so
yes.
With copyright, I'm kind of trying to figure out what I should do. If I should copyright every image I create or every piece of art I create, or should it be like the ones that are giving me the most, you know?
That's an excellent question, because a lot of times it's according to whatever respective budget someone has. So it's always best rule of thumb to copyright all of it, but let's talk practically. That's not always realistic, right? Like brass tacks, right? So like I shoot from the hip here. So look, do exactly what you're saying. What's worked best for your business? If you know you're about to go pitch an idea, a song, a concept, protect that in batches, like in doses, right? And then you can eventually do it all, but you don't have to do it at the same time. So do not walk into a pitch meeting, a meeting, anywhere you're disclosing information without that being protected. So I hope that's a better answer. If you know you're in 2 months going to walk in to pitch some songs or pictures, protect those that you're going to take in there. And do it in doses, because when you file it by yourself, I'm mentioning all this exclusive of like attorneys fees, if you all, and I actually encourage trademarks, not that they're impossible. I usually tell people, because the process can get a little, convoluted, can get a little layered, then you can work with a trademark attorney that's better suited, but with copyrights, I tell all my clients, you learn how to do it. Like I actually tell them, go to copyright.gov. It is a lot of information, but spend a Saturday or something and read it, but learn how to file your own copyrights, because it's $35 for a single application and $55 when you do a compilation. So that means if you want to file 100 photos, that just you are the author. Now the key is you have to be the only person. Like only you and I, if we created images together, we could be the only 2 for those 100 photos. Does that make sense? If we add a third person, that 101st photo, they can't fall in our batch. That's a new application. So authorship has to be the same to fall in the batch. So that's another way you can save money. If you're the only put in a compilation, there has to be some kind of story to it. These were images of spring trees. I'm looking outside the window, so that's spring trees. You took all the pictures of spring trees, and then you captured 50 images. You go put that in $55. See, so there are ways around all of that. That is why I tell clients, learn to file your own copyright. It can get a little expensive if you have an attorney do that every time, because you're paying for the attorney's time and everything, so you're adding a few more $100 to that. So by the time you do that, then you're gonna be like, oof, I could have done like 4. And then I'm just very, very honest about that. But the trademark can get, I got done so many of them that when a lot of my clients, they have to come back when they've done it themselves, like it's a bigger mess. Because I got to get on the phone with the examiner, they're called the examiner and attorney, then they have to get me abreast to what happened. Then we got to look at the application, we got to clean it up, and then we get started, versus I could have handled it, right? So but I tell people the copyright it's straightforward enough that you'll learn the process, you can do it with your eyes closed, and you'll probably do it more than you will with the trademark. So get on that website, start educating yourself. That's why I gave you all websites to actually look at. And a lot of it, y'all, it is a lot of information. I'm not gonna lie. You're gonna get on the website and be like, whoa. Because I know even I go up there, so I'm still like, are they still adding information up there? But it's necessary. You don't have to know everything. You need to just know the basic, like, classes of goods that your industry falls in, what is protected under there. Just educate yourself enough to be dangerous, right? And learn that. You can do that in a weekend reading, right? It'll be well worth it. Yeah, literally. So because think about the kind of money you will save on the front end versus on the back end. So that if somebody is infringing on your mark, you can confidently go and say, I can sue you. And the one thing I was about to leave out before, I cannot leave this out before I change the next slide. Another power of having the intellectual property rights filed at the federal level is you get what's called treble damages. So I'm using an example of showing that $100,000. I showed that I lost $100,000 in business because somebody stole my trade name and were acting like they were me and taking my clients and circumventing business. Then I would go to a federal court and say, Judge, they stole my clients. I proved the case. I lost this money. The judge will then give me $300,000. So they give you 3 times your damages. They won't give you that if you did not follow the proper procedure and file through the United States Patent and Trademark Office or through the Copyright Office. So they're rewarding people who follow rules, basically. Yes? Treble, meaning 3 times. Mm-hmm. So they call it legally treble damages, but 3 times the damages. Yes.
I was copyright in the state, but will that protect me in another state?
Nope, just in the state. That's why I do the federal mark. Yeah, that's why I say, and there's no disrespect. I know some of my colleagues who do the state, and I'm not taking digs at them. To me, it doesn't make sense. When I do business, I want to do commerce, right, across the board of 50 states and even throughout the globe. But it protects you in the 50 states in the United States. So yeah, that's why I often don't do state marks. So I'm gonna grab your question and I'm coming to you. Yes.
Okay, I have a nonprofit.
Okay.
I'm not saying the name, but should I copyright it?
Absolutely, it's a business. Even though it's not for profit, it still is a business.
Right.
Yeah. You see, a lot of times that's an excellent question because people think, oh, it's a nonprofit. No, it's a business.
Right.
You still have tax and legal implications.
Exactly.
So absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Great question. Trademark the name, copyright, depending on, I don't know, you don't have to divulge the industry or anything. If you have a manual, the way you do business, you will copyright that. Something like that, for example.
Okay.
Question, yes.
International.
Excellent. I knew somebody was going to answer this question. Great.
Yeah, because with social media and everything, your business, everybody can go global.
It's the World Wide Web, right?
So in your trademark with the government,
yes.
When you go into the website, is there a distinction between domestic and international, and what would be the fees to make sure that's covered? Should you do it on a global?
Excellent question. So the United States Patent and Trademark website covers, they make it clear when you're filing it, you're just filing it for these 50 states in the U.S. However, there's something called, if you want to write this down, something, well, everyone could write this down. I'll be asking you just because you posed a question. It's called the Madrid Protocol. MADRID Protocol. PROTOCOL. And those, when you Google that, or you go on the United States Patent and Trademark Office website, then they show you the countries throughout the world that respect our U.S. intellectual property laws, and that can tell you where it's protected. Then you file and pay those applicable fees. Does that answer your question? So do you need to do that immediately? I'll have to tell clients no. Because you need to make sure that your intellectual property right laws here are you governing and getting that machine well oiled and activated, and then you're worried globally. So people say, well, I'm exposed globally. It's sort of the risk you take in business, right? But now, if you know immediately you're about to launch a product, a business or service there, you absolutely need to protect that. So it just, you see, it depends, right? If you're activating in Brazil, you need to knock it out in Brazil right then. But if in 6 months, if your goal is to do that, just wait until you see what your business looks like in Brazil and then file the intellectual property. So the Madrid Protocol tells you the countries throughout the world that respect the U.S. intellectual property right laws. Now, granted, I always tease China because it's the truth. They don't respect anybody's intellectual property right laws. And I'm not making a biased statement, it's factual, right? Like, they don't protect, they literally don't have IP laws because they knew they're in the practice of, you know, be creative, as they'll call it, right? So you obviously just sort of, people know when they do business, they're like, in some capacity, you know, in China, I just can't even worry about that right now because it's just the risk of doing business. Versus, I'm throwing out a country where I know honors our U.S. laws. The UK, right? We have a lot of sister laws and treaties with the UK. You can go file the applicable fee in the United Kingdom, and then your U.S. property, intellectual property right laws will be respected there as well, and vice versa. Yes?
I heard you say 50 states. We're in renewable energy, so we're doing some projects in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
You said 50 states.
Oh, I'm sorry, U.S. territories.
Thank you.
As well. All you, excellent question. U.S. territories, yeah, Guam, Puerto Rico, all of that. So excellent question, that's a great distinction. So yes, any U.S. territory, those laws are on.
Before you move on,
Yes.
I want to talk about this because I had this question. How many of you have logos for your businesses? You have logos that you just picked off the internet, logos that were specifically designed for your company. You also want to have those copyrighted, okay, as well, to make sure that nobody else can use your logo. So she talked about before, trademark your name, copyright your logo.
You would actually trademark your logo.
So those things are yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Yolanda, thank you. Yes, you all. And then here's how I tell people, some people are like, should I, you know, it's ultimately a business decision. They ask me as a attorney, should I trademark my logo? I'm like, are you married to it? I don't know. Because, and I'm saying, and you're laughing because people change it, right? And then they're like, oh, I did a trademark for a logo. Guess what? When you change, you got to do a new trademark. So I asked that question for a reason. I can't make that decision for a client. I have to tell them, so they scratch their head and disappear for a few weeks sometimes. And they're like, okay, I'm ready, right? Like, because it feels like a commitment, but like, it is. Like, it is because how do you want to protect it? Or just know if you change your logo every 2 years, you're basically filing a trademark every 2 years. So some people do, what we do is called a standard character mark. We just protect the words. Because you may change your logo every year, that's up to you, but you want people to not use the words in that industry, so we'll do that. But I have some clients that are gung-ho. They're like, Amy, this logo is going with me, right? Regardless of what I do. I love it, I created it. A graphic designer made it and tailored it just for me. So you see they are married to the logo. When somebody talks to me like that, I'm like, let's do it. And then we file their trademark with their logo included. So just to give you all, thank you, Ilana, for bringing that up, because that's a great question. People are like, somebody took me. I'm like, did you trademark it? Yes.
Also, when you get whatever it's intellectual or your logo trademark or something else copyrighted, is it incumbent upon you that every time that it appears that you put trademark copyright?
Absolutely. Like, I'll go back to the beginning and show you all. Y'all see I had a copyright symbol? Mm-hmm. Right? So anytime you create, technically, I can copyright this presentation. Right? It's what's called a common law copyright because it was created, I created it just for you all, like this specific presentation. Like, so it's a part of IP because copyright is an expression, like a tangible expression, now I'm in a PowerPoint, of an idea. So you can't just have a thought in your head and say, I want to copyright that. No, you have to put literally pen to paper, make something of it. So people can copyright presentations. You heard me give an example of like modules and diagrams of how you run your business. Yes, but each time you would put copyright with a C to put the world on notice that I have filed a copyright or I intend to, this is my work. Basically, you're stating your domain, like this is mine. And then you put actual great page, all these symbols right here, TM, to let them know that I've trademarked, I have a pending trademark. The minute the trademark is registered, I've not forgotten, I'll make sure I'm calling you. It turns into an R. Have you all ever seen an R beside? It shows that it's registered. So it changes from a pending trademark to a registered trademark. You cannot put the R until it's legally registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is illegal to have the R because it's a misrepresentation, showing somebody that you have filed, like the actual process is over. And a trademark process takes anywhere from 9 to 12 months from filing to registration. It takes very long. Yes, ma'am.
And I have another question. The common law copyright for materials, because I train and I create materials. Do you put copyright on that? What do you do?
You put it on that with the plans to actually file the copyright. You don't want to see copyright symbol around things that you're just gonna sit there. Yes, you have a common law right, but you wanna get in the practice of actually taking the steps and measures to protect your copyright. Because guess what, somebody can come behind you and claim a common law right and then actually have filed it, and then it's a game of who did what first. And I'm just telling you, you don't wanna get involved in that game because legally speaking, it is very expensive. When attorneys have to get involved in like litigation and infringement. So the best way to do that is go to the Copyright Office and just get in the practice of a few times a year or how many times within your respective industry, file the trademarks or copyrights. And trademarks, I get it, it's more expensive, it's a more detailed process, but at least your copyrights, if you're creating a lot of modules and programs, like that's an investment, make that a company cost, like keep a budget for intellectual property, a year. So that you'll be able to comfortably stand and say, when someone tries to infringe on your work, no, I have a common law and a federal copyright. You stay with more authority, Yes, ma'am.
My question was, say somebody picks up a logo off a site like just a print or something like that, they can trademark that logo? Because doesn't that belong to them?
It does.
Right.
So somebody will have to get permission or rights. What most people do, and I tell people, go to a graphic designer or something, create something from fresh. Or God forbid, if that graphic designer, remember I told you about misrepresentations and indemnification? If they tell you that nobody owns it and you didn't know, you just have a beautiful logo that you like, and the graphic designer made a misrepresentation, you get sued, you can go back to the graphic designer. You get what I'm saying? Right. That's a perfect example of indemnification, because they promise you that, oh, no one else owns this, and you get blindsided when someone sends you a cease and desist to stop using your logo because you don't own it. But generally speaking, it's not a problem people run into. When you go to a graphic designer, so they're creating a work, like a body of work that's new, that captures the vision you tell you want them to capture for your brand or your business, and they're creating it just for you. Yes. Okay, we have any more intellectual property questions?
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
Now, for a presentation, say for example, if I shared a copy of this with my staff, would that be infringement now? Would it be if I used your presentation to do a presentation?
Yeah, you usually will have to ask for permission, but if the exceptions are with fair use, if you're using it for educational purposes, like I'm using it here, and then you're like using it internally, off the record, most people are like, cool. But when someone starts to go and monetize on something you've done, that's when people are like, wait a second. You have to ask permission, and then that's when licenses kick in to ask somebody to use it. And then if you think about it, it could create and foster a good relationship when people are doing that, because now somebody knows if you're doing your licensing, their copyright, then it just lends, I've seen it happen this way, it lends to good business practice, and people are like, oh, let me see how I can work with you. Like so it's always good if somebody owns something, just ask permission. I like to use the example with kids in a sandbox. You're not just gonna come and take the toy when somebody's playing with it in the middle of it. Ask for permission. They're gonna invite you in, right? So it's the same thing, especially with your IP. You can't just take people's stuff and think they're not gonna be mad about it, versus asking permission and they'll give it to you cheap, free, or create some kind of license. Just ask for it. That's when a lot of people get in trouble. They're like, oh, this person will notice, and that will be the time when somebody posts something and they notice, and then cease and desist letters get thrown around, and lawyers get called, and that's how it turns into a big mess, when it could have just been like, can I use this? And if so, can you work with me on the fee if there's a fee attached? Literally, it's a conversation as simple as that. Let's see, what was our next one? Okay, service performance requirements. So it talks about, we talked about it earlier, the obligations that are required of you in a contract, right? You want to know what is required of you, what is not required of you. You don't want to commit to 1,000 things when you can get money for doing 100, right? So it's very, very important to know what that is. So in government contracts, somebody gave me an example for prime and the sub earlier, right? So we're doing a prime and a sub. So it's a statement of work or performance of work. In that, is what's called preamble or title. You usually see what's expected from you as far as the services, and as a sub, if it's electric. Someone in here does electric. Yep. I remember I was listening while on the intro. So yeah, very important, right? The statement of work is very, very important for you, because you may not agree to every bit of it. And if you agree to it, you want more money for it, right? See how important that is?
Or if they leave something out, change your order in the end.
There you go. But that is all in the statement of work. If you're like, okay, we'll do any of your electrical work. No, that's expensive. You're gonna narrow the scope, right? Absolutely. So that's where you'll find it in the statement of work. And examples, yep, I just gave the general contractor responsible for like overseeing the entire project. So the GC would have a contract with each sub. So going back to your example, whether it's like I've heard it called a couple of things, bill memo, proposal, agreement, contract, that's when the GC, that's why GCs are the ultimate project managers. They have to have all these various contracts that are executed, deal memos that are specific to the electrical services being offered, piping, wireless, all the various things that are in the project. Then the GC would have those in the respective agreements. And then, as I mentioned, the subcontractors will sign up to perform that portion of work. They are not obligated to perform any more or any less, just what they need to come in to do. Okay? Invoicing terms, back to this conversation. Invoicing terms, does that mean anything to you all? Yeah, everybody's like, oh yeah. You want to know when you're getting paid, right? Who's cool with getting paid whenever? Okay, I didn't think anybody knew. So invoicing terms, a lot of times people breeze through it, but it's a when will you get paid? It's not a bad question to ask, right? We have real adult expenses, real life things to pay for, so we need to know we're getting paid. So what does net mean? Does anybody know what net means? Just loose definition, doesn't have to be anything technical. When someone says net 30, net 60, whoa. Absolutely, everybody, look, I love how everybody on this side knew that answer. They were like, pay me my money, that's what it means. So net means exactly, sir. He said full amount of payment due, not 1/4, not 1/3. Every bit of it is due. So when you see net 30, those are just these terms are terms you want to negotiate when getting paid. So if I'm just throwing out terms, I usually see net 30, net 45, net 60, right? Especially with government contracts, that's standard. Maybe 90 sometimes, depending on how big the contract. I love how she's nodding her head. She was like, no 90, we don't want that. But would you take 90 if the sum was large? Oh, let me pick on you a little bit. Why wouldn't you take 90, even if the sum was large?
Because some government agencies, they have different cycles in regards to when they get paid, and those cycles are not always determined to guarantee to get the money at the time they say they're going to pay you. So I like to have mine immediately up front, and then if you fall into a shortfall, we can work with you on the balance.
See, that type of client right there, when I talk, that's the kind of client where I say, she gave the line in the sand, right? That's why you will hear attorneys often say, like, I need to know your line in the sand. Because you may not want to take that contract because the person is paying net 90 versus another will pay you 30, and the one paying you net 30 is not paying you as much as 90, but you know your money's going to be there. So it depends. That's a perfect example on a case-by-case basis with a client. Some other people are like, I'm cool with 90, that means I get a little more. But in your business, the way you run it, it may throw things off. So I just saw her nodding her head, so I had to pick on you back there. So examples we mentioned, net 30, net 60. And then interest charges. Having those potentially in an agreement could be helpful. I'm not telling you all what to do again, but if you notice that someone pays late quite a bit, you want to smack in an interest charge, that will incentivize them to pay a little earlier, right? So having tactics and strategies like that. So in the event payment is not rendered after 30 days, there is an interest charge every fill in the blank, 10 days of this percentage or this dollar amount. Right. So just getting creative like that, I bet you the people will pay quicker, and if they don't, then you have to reassess and reevaluate if you want to work with that vendor, customer, client anymore.
No, that's what we call you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, hopefully you don't have to call, some people call the lawyer to send a demand letter to scare them. But you don't even want it to get to that point, right? You want to do business with people like, you know you owe me money, right? When you tell people that, like, you know you owe me money. So these are just things you can have in a contract. So if you send them an invoice the next time and there's an extra, I'm just throwing them out, $500 in interest charge, they're like, whoa, what's this? You're like, did you read the initial contract we entered into? Right. You were 30 days late, so it triggered this interest charge. Okay, so we talked about indemnification earlier, but I'll just go back through this point. What is it, right? We talked about when a party commits to a term, and then there's some harm or liability. It's a misrepresentation they made. They say they're going to do something, they represented something, and it was otherwise. Now it costs you harm, taking money out of your pocket. It's not trying to sue you. A lot of expenses, so that's indemnification. Remember I said mutual indemnification is key when I give that example. Mutual is key, and that was perfect for me as if you can get it, get it. Sometimes people will give you pushback, but just assess the scenario, because sometimes you're like, whatever. there's not too much harm that can be caused by it. You have to assess that in each contract. Sometimes if you're walking in and their product, services, things get broken, stolen, you want mutual indemnification because that may be a non-negotiable in the contract. So it really depends on how vital it is, but your goal is always to get a mutual indemnification clause. Because it makes both parties accountable. So somebody say, why is that important? I want to be held just as accountable as you. You don't want to feel like it's one-sided, you know. And then I know basically I know we did most of the other half there. The next steps were, as far as this, Yolanda was saying, whether it's myself or another attorney, you can schedule a consultation just to assess it because there's business strategy, whether I work with clients or not. If they want to come on, different clients have different measures. They want to come in and do a business strategy session for an hour. Some may not want to deal with an attorney or may not be ready. So the moral of the story is whether it's me or another attorney, if you are growing a business, get counsel. Get counsel. Everybody's thinking I can coast through it. You can until you hit a wall. And not trying to be negative, it's just I've seen it enough. I work with startups, I work with very, very established businesses. Eventually, you have to invest in yourself. Like you all, the experts in what you do, you're in your lane, let somebody who does it and has done it and has seen a lot of scenarios handle it so that you can continue to be as efficient in your business. Because a lot of people we all do it. I'm telling you. Like I could be my own lawyer because I do it for a living, right? But you all could be your own fill in the blank. But I was my own accountant, right? When you first start, I know y'all aren't talking about anything I haven't had to do myself, right? But eventually you have to relinquish those responsibilities. I had to get a CPA. So I'm not telling you, I had to invest in myself as well. So a lot of times I hear it a lot. People are like, oh, I'm straight, I don't need an attorney, until you're not. And then they get sticker shock when the attorney has to pull them out of a mess because we're being reactive at that point and not proactive. And then it's an emergency. And then emergencies cost money, sometimes a lot of money. And then you still have to get the situation right. So think about all that money someone spent versus getting agreements and templates like we talked about. And just coming to get them tweaked. So just whoever it is, think about it. And I have some people I'm going to pick on here who has not started a business entity yet. Okay, may I ask what's holding you all up? Or did you literally just start business? You just started? Okay, that's fair. So what is your homework by the end of May? There we go. Both the two. Absolutely. So you go into the Secretary of State website and file it. That's it. It's that simple. I say it's that simple because you want to create that bubble and shelter of liability because God forbid someone sued today, they're going for personal assets. That's how important it is to protect your business.
And even the company may say have to file the paperwork within 30 days to keep the name.
The name reservation is what you're doing? I mean, you could just file it. If you do a quick search on the website and no one's using the name, you just file the company. Don't let that hold you up. See what I mean? The ways around things. You can do that, but if you search on the business search and nobody's using that name, and if someone has a name that's close to it, the Secretary of State will contact you, and then you'll be able to choose another one. I don't want that to hold you up when you start it.
So the main thing to start off is to file.
Yeah. Yep, and then once you get your certificate of, if it's an LLC, it'll be a certificate of organization. If it is an incorporation, it'll be a certificate of incorporation. Once you get that respective document saying you're an actual entity, you file your EIN number with the IRS. And then you are officially a business. You can go open a business bank account, which is important because you want to isolate your resources. You don't want to use personal funds for business and business funds for personal. Once again, think about it as a business cocoon. You're trying to protect yourself from personal liability, so you have to build a business cocoon so that if anybody's coming to do anything, good or bad, right? Unfortunately, you have to talk about the good parts of business and the bad parts when people sue. Then they can only come for that company. Yes.
Well, my question is going to tie in kind of like with what you just talked about in terms of not commingling personal finances with your business. Now, if your business hasn't been in place long enough to be profitable yet, and Is there a basic contract, say for example, if I want to invest in my business, but get my money back? So can I draw up a general contract like we do with our credit cards, terms and conditions, interest rate, and the whole 9 yards, so that my money will become a payment that my business have to pay me to reimburse me until the business start being profitable?
That's an excellent question. In most cases, you don't have to do all that. Now, we're leaning towards some of the taxation and CPA questions, but your CPA can properly advise you. It's something called, I'll use it on LLC side. It's called, the corporation side, a shareholder contribution if you have an Inc. And if you have an LLC, it'll be a member contribution. Meaning that you can literally, like it's great, it's always important to document everything. You pay yourself a salary just to keep things clean. So if the IRS ever audits you, you don't want to be audited, but if they audit you, then it will be clear in how you're doing your business. So through that, if you write in a check memo, $5,000, if you have an LLC, member contribution for investment in business, and you stand back, put that into your company, and then eventually as profit comes, you pay yourself that. It's important to pay that money back to yourself. It was a contribution or a loan or whatever it is. But then I don't want to cross the boundaries too much because the rest of those are tax questions. And I am not an accountant, so I can't speak to that. But I can speak to the legal implications that you can loan yourself your business money. But you don't want to get in the habit of doing that once a month because the IRS is going to look and say, somebody mentioned it earlier, which I like, it's a hobby. Right? It's not a business. Eventually, you're gonna have to generate some income. But yeah, that happens to a lot of business owners. Where are you gonna get the money initially, right? They're getting it from a bank, family members, themselves, their savings. So it's not abnormal to loan your company money. You just don't want to get in the habit of doing it so much that they're like, you're not making any money, why do you have a business? Yes, Elizabeth.
What is the difference between a 501c3 and a 501c4?
Yes, so the 501. An example, that C4 is a little new, so it's like social change. So what does that mean? I know, because it's like, yeah, because it ebbs and flows. If somebody had an environmental company that, I'm winging it at this point, that promoted social change, because everyone knows, whether people believe it or not, with global warming, right? See, you can finish my sentence because there's something to it, right? The way our temperature is going. So that could be a social change company, for example. It's a sort of new development phenomenon. That's why it's so new that it's changing so much. But that could potentially fall under a 501c3 versus a 501c4, I'm sorry. 501c3 would be sort of your run-of-the-mill nonprofit that raised for, education, raise money for education, various other entities. I'm thinking about 501c3s are so prominent. Just think about the social change aspect of the other one, something that's newer development, like the environmental issue, lobbying, civil rights, that kind of, just sort of new phenomena we've sort of seen in our generation, because that's something they just created, it's that new within the last few years. Did I see it?
Going back to member contributions for LLCs, what about intangible or virtual assets, things like domain names, virtual private servers, things that it's not cash. Can you transfer those?
Absolutely.
Into the LLC?
It's called an assignment of rights. Absolutely. 1000%, because you owned it personally, but you now want the company to own it. Absolutely. It's called an assignment of rights. Nice one-page document put together, but you assign it from yourself, your personal name, to whatever your company's name is. Transfer right over. And I know it's funny, you're signing one entity and signing it again, like you sign your name twice,
right,
but,
yeah,
but you're,
as an officer.
Absolutely. It's called an assignment of rights. Absolutely. Yeah. Did I see another?
Yes. With a nonprofit, you're asked whether or not it's going to have members. What determines whether or not a nonprofit has members?
Yeah, the actual, you mean members within the nonprofit, or like owners, or?
Members within the nonprofit.
Because members, and I'm bouncing back and forth, because members is like a term of art in a limited liability company. So if the nonprofit happens to be a limited liability company, then members could mean like owners. So do you mean like owners of the nonprofit, or like actual people who are the board?
Right, people that would be on a board or something like
Yeah, so you have to, for a lot of times, you have to have a board of directors, and then there have to be bylaws and a lot of other stuff that fall in line. So that depending on the state, the entity, like, would be a requirement. And a certain number of women, it varies on a state by state scenario. Georgia's different than North Carolina, which is different than Mississippi. Yes, ma'am?
My nonprofit organization is actually social welfare, fits in that category. But I applied for the 501c3, been had it for many years, so we advised me switching it over to a 501c4. That because it's basically tailored what you're talking about now within the change.
I would actually talk to a specific nonprofit attorney, because I know enough to be dangerous to just have spoken to the two before, but they're actual nonprofit attorneys who like just focus on that. They will better advise you on like that, because I tend to deal with more for-profit, but I know the different nuances between the two, so I don't want to give you an answer or advise, because that's not my particular lane, you know. So a nonprofit attorney will be able to look at it and say, oh no, you're fine, just stay in 501c3. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, shit. Okay. All right. On my website, I have a form that a client would fill out. Say if they were coming for a digital design, they would fill out the form, tell me what services they would want, elaborate on it, and then sign. Do you think that form would be okay for like a contract, or do I need to send them something like via email for them to sign and send it over to me?
That's hard without seeing, so I can't just give a blanket answer.
Okay.
But it is generally good business practice to have a template in place that you're giving everybody, and not just sort of, that sounds like you're collecting sort of contact information and what service they're rendering. That's not like,
Okay.
I'm saying contract because it's not technically, like you are trying to get information on how you can render a service. You're not binding them to anything. So you would need to get some kind of agreement in place that shows that you're an independent contractor, the service you're gonna offer. You could have something, we talked about statement of work earlier, because it would change on a case by case scenario. So you could have a master contract saying that you're an independent contractor, and then the statement of work could talk about your fee. So that could change each time with each person, one page. So the essence of the document stays the same, and you have your statement of work that will change on the term, the fees, the service being offered. So that way you're only changing one page. It goes back to what he brought up, a good point. Like, people want templates, right? So that would be your template, but making that initial investment and getting that would be something that I would say would be important, especially if that's a document you use quite a bit. Yes, ma'am.
I was gonna ask about legal shield, when you were saying, getting some type of advice from a lawyer or something. Sometimes they have like a consultation stuff that you can get with the membership. What do you think about that?
I have no idea. I can't speak to that. I'm not a part of legal shield because I'm an attorney. So, and I'm saying that because I offer the services, so I've never even looked at the site. So.
But I'm saying, like, when you first start off, and it's not in the budget, but you know you're gonna need some type of legal advice, and I've had legal shield, and I was wondering, just the regular legal shield, just if I need to call and ask a legal question, it's been coming in handy on a personal level, so I was wondering how that would kind of work with business stuff.
You would just vet for their experience in the respective question or industry you're in. If you're comfortable with it, ultimately it's a business decision, you know, you can go for it. But just make sure you're comfortable that they have the knowledge in your field. Yes, ma'am. And then I see you, and I see you.
I can answer the question for her.
Okay.
I've been with Legal for many years, and I have the personal side of the house. And then when I opened up my business, I was getting to add the business right to the plan. So then when all person is person and all business is business, we just look at the same thing.
Okay, we'll have the services been pretty good.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I come in on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, and I just kind of want to comment a little bit on that, because as I mentioned, we do financial literacy workshops, but just from personal experience, your attorney, your CPA, your financial advisor, you need to build relationships.
Absolutely.
And so if you're just asking a general question, maybe. But in order to really give you the services that you need, you have to have a relationship. And I know I have had Legal Shield, and if I needed them to send a letter or I needed them to, prepare a document, that's okay because I know specifically. But if I want you to understand my business, my situation, you need a relationship. And once they assign you an attorney to a specific case, you're gonna be dealing with that person. But you really want somebody that can look at the whole gamut, not just a specific situation. So building that relationship is invaluable. I'm not saying I don't discourage, because I've used Legal Shield in many cases myself, and even major cases, and they resolved it and had attorneys represent for a period of time. But at the end of that transaction, the next time I call, they're gonna assign me a new attorney, depending on what the situation is. So personal relationships, you can't beat it.
And I agree that I was speaking on
Right.
the basis that I'm just getting started, so I don't have anything to really, for them to really look at right now. So I'm just saying, as far as the building and trying to get things situated, to get some type of legal advice, but I don't have a whole lot of money to, do that.
Well, one of the things I recommend is use the library. Get a return on your investment, because most of the information, you're gonna pay for her knowledge and experience in doing research and her professionalism and but she had to research too. So that's a part of your investment. If you don't have the resources, come to the library, because we have all the information that they research. Their expertise and experience is what's gonna make them the professionals in the matter over a period of time. But you can research it, and we have publications on anything you could possibly need. And it's free.
I saw your hand, but
I just have a question. In my industry, I have a pest control company, and we're requiring that all of our clients sign contracts. But however, we have customers that don't want to sign contracts. So how do we get around that?
It's not a customer you want.
exactly. She took the words right out of her. That is not a customer you want. Like you heard what I told him earlier. Like when you're doing business, you need to get it in writing. I don't care who it's with.
Even with residential customers?
I don't care who it's with. Like they're a person, right? With all due respect, right? But they're a person, right? Because those are the ones that will cause you the biggest headache. That's how it happens every time. I've done this enough to know, believe me, the ones that cause you the biggest headache are the ones that don't pay you on time, don't want to pay you, or don't sign a contract. They fall in one of those three categories, right? So,
In God we trust, everybody else sign.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's just know that you're taking a risk, right? So it's your decision, but know that that person will walk away and say, I'm not paying you. They're not bound. You can render the service, so technically you say I rendered the service, but there's nothing legitimizing it. You're welcome. Yes.
Okay, so let's stay on that subject.
Yes, let's stay there.
Sort of generalized, but a little bit specific.
Okay.
So perform the service for a client. The client is a Canadian citizen.
Okay.
He probably has dual citizenship between US and Canada. The corporation was a Delaware corporation at the time, but now it's a Georgia corporation.
Okay.
The agreement stated that if there's any issues, that would go to arbitration in Delaware.
Okay.
Now, what if we want to change venue to Georgia? Can we do that?
Generally, you have to mutually agree to that. And when people get to the point where they're doing arbitration and everything, they're not always able to see eye to eye. So that may be a bit of pushback, but generally it would have to be per the agreement. If it said Delaware, then everyone has to stick to it because you committed to it at the time, knowing that that was, you captured what you wanted to enforce during the time. I know minds change, situations change, but the courts are like, but just think about general law, people, if it changed with the wind, then they'll be changing things all the time, right? You know, so they would have to honor it being in Delaware, short of you all both agreeing. Yes.
Yes, I have a question. My sister is a management company for indie artists.
Okay.
Musical hip hop artists. And she has 3 clients. But one of the 3 clients is on road, but they're still on the contract.
That's not abnormal, unfortunately. I said unfortunately, not abnormal, but she's talking about the artist side, about the artist going rogue. That's unfortunate. That's not abnormal. And the art, I love my creatives, but you know. So you're saying they went rogue and
Right, they're still on the contract for the next, I think, 6 years. She invested.
what kind of contract is that? Yeah. Maybe that's why they went rogue. I was like, they were like, yeah. Which a lot of them do because they lack the like you said, the resources, the education, or at least one thing I have to say, you all, like I said, I've started a business just like everybody else in here, so I get it. I'm not making this statement that, you know, sound harsh, but you do have to invest in yourself, right? I had to, just like the rest of you all, you have to pull money from somewhere and figure it out. The same thing to your business. So if you're not investing at that moment, if you can't afford an attorney, you do whatever. If it's that important enough, like people are walking into, like I negotiate major recording deals and publishing that tie people into albums and years. If you cannot find and invest in an attorney there, I'm telling you, I've seen it too much. These contracts I read are 50 pages, 50. If you cannot, most people talk, are you gonna read that? I'm not saying you can't, but they're speaking of legalese. There's so much they try to throw in there as a record label because they're not your friend, they're in business. They do all of that to make your eyes cross. So I tell people it would behoove you to somehow find that money because I'm telling you what they're trying to bind you to is gonna cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. So to encourage a person to get, now they're probably locked into a contract that's gonna be expensive, to be very honest with you, to get them out. Because the goal would have been for them to have an attorney on the front end to say, you see how automatically say, what kind of contract did they sign? I'm gonna let my client sign that. That's the difference.
So if the artist owns both and they're still in this contract and the management company has already invested large sums of money, if they don't do anything for a long period of time, they're good. But if they become famous, it becomes one of the big.
They get attached to their income.
Yeah.
I can end your sentence by telling you exactly how it is because they're in that window of time. They get attached to whatever they say in that management agreement. And because I don't know what the management agreement looks like, they could be attached to touring, merchandise, publishing. They can be attached to all their revenue streams. So that's how, remember when we were touching about on points, compensation term? That is unfortunately a perfect example, a cautionary tale of somebody being attached to something for so long and they're not even advocating on behalf of the person anymore because the relationship has gone sour. But the minute that person breaks, they sell 1 million records, that manager's getting a cut of it, whatever their percentage is. That's exactly how it goes.
That's why it should be a win-win.
Absolutely.
Year one.
Yep, because they committed to 6 years.
Right.
It's a long time. A long time, yes, ma'am.
This is an interesting question, maybe not. All right, you end up in a legal situation, you go to court, and the court judge says that they're in your favor. How do you get your money?
Ha, that's always the question. You all, she asked a very good question. The judge renders a verdict in your favor. They say the person owes you money. How do you get your money? That is the hard part. Getting your money could be the chase. Because if the company doesn't have the money, they're not going to pay it to you. You can file a lien. You get a judgment to file a lien, which means when they're paying debts, you'll fall in some order. And I can't tell exactly what order you're falling because they might have other creditors that they owe money. But you will file a lien to attach your loan, the amount that they owe you to, if they buy a house, do whatever, then before they pay anybody, you'll be one of the creditors because they pay back. So literally it's how it happens. That's why the best practice is know who you're getting into business with. I understand people, show their true colors later. You don't always know who you're getting business with, but do your due diligence so you can avoid things like that. Because people are like, if they don't have the money to pay you, nobody can force them to pay you. And you can chase them for a little while, but I know it's horrible, like, but you attach a lien to them. The first goal is to get the payment. If you notice they're not paying you, then a lien. Yes.
For sports, should when professional athletes take on
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because a lot of agents, I'm not poking fun at agents, well, a lot of agents happen to be attorneys too, but they don't always want you to get with an attorney because they think we're trying to come in. We do two very different things. The agent is actively going out to pursue sort of these opportunities. Folks, and some attorneys may do that, but our job really is to make sure, like in that capacity, that any endorsement deals are coming, your paperwork, like we're growing and protecting your brand, looking at your IP, strategizing, doing all that. So yes, the two should actually coexist, but a lot of athletes just feel like they just need an agent and they don't have a lawyer. Unless the agent is the lawyer, but then it gets really complex. Exactly, but the agent shouldn't be the lawyer at the same time either, because of those things, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I guess independent service organization, like if a credit card processing company is asking me to sell their services for their credit card company, and they sent a 25-page contract. And it was a whole lot of stuff about banks and the legal stuff, and I told them it was too complicated. They told me that I was looking too deep into it.
Of course they're gonna tell you. They just want you to sign, and they want somebody to sign it and be quiet. That's what they want. I mean, that's the best way to say it. But you should, yeah. I mean, that sounds like a pretty dense contract for that process, but you always, I know it feels like a lot, but you need to lay your eyes, especially when, the more money, the more time, anything, the greater the value, I mean, at any level, but the greater the value, I don't care if it takes you 2 weeks to read it. You need to read it.
They try to give me the guy into the residuals, because you get all this commission and residuals, and you're gonna make this money on.
They're fast talking. Read it. Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't feel comfortable, walk away in a transaction. But if it's something you're interested in entertaining, definitely read it or get counsel with somebody. No, not somebody you trust. Get counsel to read it when it's that something. I was about to say no, because somebody can say, I almost went to law school, with all due respect. There are just certain things our brains are trained to do in a certain way. Just like, two questions. Yeah. So just knowing that's when you're walking into, if you walk into $100,000 contract, do you want a lawyer to read that, or do you want, you get what I'm saying? There's there's certain levels of things that you want to trust the expert. Just like if I came to your industry, I'm not gonna say I can handle it. I'm gonna say, okay, I can take 2 more questions.
One thing is not to operate business in a desperate mode.
Absolutely.
It takes time.
Absolutely.
And quick, easy money is not always the best money.
That is amazing advice. Yep, so be intentional about everything you do, from, who you want as clients, how you market yourself. I heard when I was coming in, you all, these various events, attending here, be intentional. So you won't be in a space of desperation. Network in any room you're in. This could be your next client, your next vendor, your next business partner. You don't know. So the more you expose yourself, I love that advice. I tell a lot of my clients that as well. Don't get your back against the wall, because people can smell it and they'll take advantage of it every time. And you don't want that. You want to be in a remember this proactive state. If you're reacting, your fists are always up. But if you're proactive, you're more relaxed. You can think clearer. You can make those decisions, better decisions. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all.
If you have any questions at all that you want to shoot at me, I know Amy has given you guys a lot of great information. I hope if you have questions later that you will reach out to her as well. Again, our next certification information workshop will be June the 13th, right here in this room. So for those of you that are not certified, even for those of you that have not yet completely started your business, you can still come to that workshop and find out the process of becoming certified once you have finished getting your business set up, because you do have to be in business to be certified, and that's with any organization or agency. But you are welcome to come and get the information at that workshop. We don't do anything in the month of July because it's summertime. A lot of people are traveling and vacationing. So we'll have the certification workshop in June. In August is when we will have the All About Bonding workshop. I hope to see all of you, or most of you here, some of you, for that workshop. That's gonna be another great workshop that you guys need to attend to get some general information about bonding and the agencies that are available out there to help you as a small business to become bonded. Because some of these agencies are, you know, specifically looking for larger companies. So you need to find out the information from those agencies that can help you as a small business owner. All right, you will get an email with all of that information. Even if you're not certified with us, when you signed up for this workshop, you provided your email address, so your email will now become a part of my email list. So anytime we have workshops that are coming up, you're gonna automatically get an email to let you know that that workshop is coming up, so you don't have to worry about not getting informed about those workshops. You will automatically get those. So certification workshop in June, nothing in July, and then the bonding workshop in August. I want you guys to know whether you're certified with us or not. Again, this is really and truly my passion. This is my line of work. I love doing what I do. And that's the joy of me being able to do this. It's because I'm passionate about it and I love doing it. So I'm gonna always give you my best. If you have questions, even if you're not certified yet, haven't started your business yet, if you got a question, you wanna give me a call or send me an email to ask me a question, I'll be more than happy to answer it for you or try to get an answer for you. And let me think. I think that's pretty much it. Did everybody get enough to eat? Ms. Belinda?
Well, I just want to say, you deserve a round of applause for this great event.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Because it does, it takes a lot of work to pull this together. And really, in order for it to be successful, you really have to be passionate about it. This is not for anyone. And just in our relationship and working with Yolanda, everything she does is first class. And in order to project first class, you have to be about first class. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the library.
Appreciate that.
We appreciate the partnership.
Thank you. I hope it comes across. I mean, I do mean what I say. I want to see everybody in here prosper. I want to see you succeed. I don't want to see you fail. I saw so many businesses fail when I was at GDOT that it was sickening. So I want to see you succeed. Baby steps. Baby steps. As a small business owner, it's baby steps. You know, sometimes we want to jump out there, but it's a process. So we're going to keep feeding you information to help you, you know, go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. You know, anything I can do to help, I'm here to help you. Thank you. Another round of applause for our speaker, Amy. Thank you so much. She did a great job today again, as she did last year. I really appreciate her and love her. She's a sister outside of this place, so I love her and appreciate her. And I appreciate all the work that she does because she has a passion for what she does too, because a lot of attorneys wouldn't stand up here and answer some of the questions that she answered for you if they're not on retainer. So I appreciate her and I appreciate her open and honesty about it, which is why I wanted her to do this again, because she's gonna give it to you real and true, right? All right, so we're gonna go back and we're gonna do some trademarking, right? We're gonna do some copywriting, right? Right, we're gonna protect the things that we own because your business is your dream. You dreamed about it. You worked hard to see it come into fruition, so you want to protect it so nobody takes it away from you, right? So, any other questions at all? Nothing? All right. Yes, sir.
You talking about your email. Is that the SLBE email?
Yes. I monitor that email address. So if you send an email to that comes to me. Yeah, I monitor that. So, anything else? All right. Well, as I say, if all minds and hearts are clear, I will let you guys get on to the rest of your day. Again, thank you so very much for being here. Be safe in your travels.